This video is to review integer operations. When adding two integers together, if the values are both positive, then your answer is going to be a positive value. If both of your values, your integers, are negative, then you're going to have a negative value. But what happens if you have a positive and a negative that are being added together? You have to ask yourself the question, which one has more, to be able to determine whether or not your solution is going to be a positive or a negative value. So if you look at this example I have down at the bottom, if I have negative 38 plus 47, so I have a negative plus a positive, I need to determine whether or not my answer is going to be a positive number or a negative. So I'm going to ask myself which one has more. So which number is greater, 38 or 47? Well, the 47 is greater, and because the 47 is positive, that means then my answer is going to be positive. So I have negative 38 plus 47, which is going to give me a solution of 9. I'm looking at the difference between the two values. When subtracting integers, it's so important that you change it to say adding of the opposite. And so I'm going to give you an example of what I mean by that. And so here I have negative 3 minus negative 13, and I want to know what the solution is of that. So what I'm going to do first is change it. Instead of it being subtracting, I'm going to change it to say negative 3, change the subtraction sign to addition, because that's where the adding comes in. And then I'm going to make the next value the opposite. So the opposite of negative 13 is a positive 13. Now I'm going to utilize what we just talked about with adding of integers. Here again, I have one of each. I need to determine which one I have more of. And so I have more positive. So again, my answer is going to be positive. And again, I'm going to look for the difference between the negative 3 and the 13. And I'm going to have a value of 10. When it comes to multiplying or dividing integers, if the signs are the same, okay, so you're dealing with positive times a positive, a negative times a negative, right? Those signs are the same, then your answer is going to be a positive value. Now, if you have different signs, like you have one of each, like a positive and a negative, then your answer is going to be negative. This is true for also division, okay? So if you're dividing two integers together and they are the same sign, then it's going to be positive. But if you're dividing two integers and you have one of each, then your answer is going to be negative, okay? So here I have an example of negative 4 times 7. So I have one of each, right? I have a negative and a positive, which means that my answer is going to be negative. And then I can utilize my multiplication facts of looking at 4 times 7, which is going to be negative 28. The next example is one of division, just to show you how this works. Again, I have a negative 27 divided by a negative 3. So I have a negative and a negative, which means because they have the same sign, my answer is going to be a positive value. So here, my answer is going to be a positive 9. Now, this positive times a positive equaling a positive, like having the same signs, work when you're multiplying two values together. If you're multiplying more than just 2, then you really need to break it down and group based off of just two values. So if you have an odd number of negatives within your multiplication or division problem, then your answer is going to be negative. If you have an even number of negatives, negative integers within your multiplication or division problem, then your answer is going to be positive.